we want to say a big thank you once again for all that you've done to make sure that this meeting takes place. Thank you, and God bless you real good for coming. So I'd like to share with us a few things about how we can go about to manage the challenges that comes with being a parent, dealing with our leaders, relating with our academic institutions that partner with us in developing our kids, and all of that. How can we manage the challenges? How can we deal with home front issues? How can we deal with personal emotions? How can we deal with personal weaknesses, economy, and all of that? A few tips will be shared here together so that we'll be better parents than we were last term or even this term, in the next few days ahead of us as God gives us opportunity to lead. So I titled it, The Responsibility of a Responsible Parent. The responsibility of responsible parents. This presentation is all about us having to sit down together to build synergies. The school needs you. Without you seated here, we can be nowhere as far as business is concerned. And without us, if you don't get us, then you'll get our kind out there. It is either Hugh Perfecta or some other schools across board. Definitely, one thing is key. You will need a school to develop your child for you as far as education is concerned. So that means that the synergy between parents and teachers and academic institutions become very, very essential. It is almost indispensable. On that note, we need to relate together at this point. The fact that you are able to put a child, a mate, a relative in a learning set, to take a child through learning process, sponsor the child's education at whatever level, shows that we are responsible parents. That is our own assessment. We sat down, we looked at all our parents. Some have 2 kids in school, some have 3. Some we discover that the children that they are paying school fees for are not their biological children. But because they have that particular leader or child live with them, they take responsibility and say, hey, there's a future for you and I'm going to make it bright. And then you decided to pay school fees for that child. Some of you pay school fees for your maid, and we know about it. All what that tells us is that you are a responsible parent. And so it makes sense for us to believe that everybody seated here today is responsible at a measure. And we appreciate you excellently. So, discovering that we are responsible parents, we also understand that there are challenges that comes with that. And so we need to deal with those challenges. How can we deal with that? That takes into maintaining a conjugal integrity and solidarity in child educational development. That will become our subtopic at this point in time. We discover that bringing up a child has a lot to do with our living environment, the home front. The stronger the home front, the more effective the home front, the better the upbringing of the children. The weaker the home front, the less creative the home front, the less supportive the home front is, then the less impact it will have in the development of the child. Yes. Even though we know that there are many cases where some kids manage to find a way through and still come into the level of prominence without the assistance of the home front. That is like 2 out of 100, 3 out of 100. You will agree with me. Do I have a witness in the house? Especially in the contemporary age. Home front, especially at the age of 1, 2, 3, 4 to age 12, has significant role in preparing a child for a massive future. So when the home front is weak, it becomes a challenge for the child to emerge, to compete with his environment, whether it is economical, whether it is psychological, whether it is whatever is the level of interest. Maintaining a conjugal integrity and solidarity. Let me break some few points here quickly. Conjugal is a word related to marriage and sexual relationship between a husband and wife. That is already known to a number of us seated here already. It has to do with our relationship sexually as husbands and wives. And then we move on to the point integrity. What is integrity? In this particular context of this discourse, we will deal with the aspect of integrity that has to do with the state of being unified and complete. The state of being unified and complete. When there is integrity in the family, the husband's words and actions will almost always be in agreement with the wife, vice versa with that of the husband too. In other words, when there is agreement between husband and wife, they have a uniform, agreement, they have a focus, they have one vision, they have one goal. They are not dividing and ruling at the other end. This one cut half of the children to this side, this one cut half of the children to this side and run their own show, this one run their own show, this one. So, but in this case, is that they have unity. They are united together as a force. Then we say that there is integrity. We say there is what? Integrity. That is the sense at which we are looking at integrity in this discourse. So we believe that there have to be a level of integrity so that the children wouldn't see a divided home, even when they are living together. I hope you know that many couples live together but they are not living together. Some people are married today but they are living single. I watched one movie, Married or Living Single. It's a real life situation. Many homes today live together but they are married together but they are living single. And children are very sensitive about the energy that comes with that kind of home front. They are very sensitive. They understand that things are wrong. They may not have the audacity to put it on the table for a discourse, but they are dealing with things and they will not be able to discuss about it. And then it gradually it builds up on how it affects their academic performances and all of that. Even the way they relate with their friends on the street. And so there's a great need of integrity between couples, between husband and wife. The last word I'd like us to deal with is solidarity. This term means a support from one person given to another because of shared feelings, opinions, etc. We need to consolidate our efforts. The strength of the man in the house should cover the weakness of the woman. The strength of the woman should cover the weakness of the man. In the contemporary society, we live in a world where women possess some level of economic strength, financial power, security power. What would you say of a woman who is working as a chief security officer in Nigeria for Nigerian government? She has license to have a gun. In that case, it is the woman that will provide security for the family. Am I right? Please, audience, can you speak up to me? Is it correct? Is it right or wrong? It's right. That is the case. So, things change. We live in a society where women have become more and more educated, financially powerful, legitimately. So, if your husband is weak in a sense, then he need to take succor in your strength. If a woman is weak on the other end, there should be a complementary strength from the husband's side. So each other have to support each other, in such a way that the home front will be well structured, developed, positioned in such a way that the children will not understand that there are challenges at all, even when there may be little things to grapple with, and so they can still continue to build some level of strength in facing with the academic work. When there is chaos in a family, it's like you stare up dust. Everywhere is dusty, everywhere is full of particles in the air, and you think that people should be able to see things with precision. It's not possible. It is not possible. So, when a family is in trouble, it affects the younger children that are coming up. You cannot raise a psychologically balanced children in such environments. A family where a woman or a wife is always trying to win arguments over inconsequential issues. A family where husband issues unreasonable order. A family where husband and wife enjoys, generating negative energy that break down the entire system, cut down the emotion of the children, deal with their cycle, batter each other left, right, and center. You cannot raise a family or children who will do well academically in that kind of environment. The system just, dazzle us here. That you live in a nation where the academic structure has been cut short by the people who sold the idea to us. They gave us education at a level where whenever we have to meet with them in the field of performance in any level, we will have to go back and learn from them no matter how far we go. So if you finish university in Nigeria, you have a master's degree, you go to the US, you have to go and get back to school again. Because they have kept us at that level. So like he said, many schools, particularly private schools, decided to find the difference and bring it to bear even within this same environment. And that's why we go to some good private schools that offer those kind of higher learning level. Then you also see the kind of fees that they are charging compared to what People Better is charging, even when we are doing even better in those areas. So that means that we cannot play down on the kind of environment that we structure for our leaders to grow in. It is very, very key. There is no need for us to build up negative energies that will break down the system, break down the psychology of the children. Thus, when parents propagate chaos, debauchery, and other forms of misbehavior or marital conflict, the children suffer the psychological effects even much more than the parents themselves who does those things. Now let me share this with you. I am a married man. I have a family. Apparently my wife also works in a school at Mainland as I speak to you now. And then she came back to me, I think that was last month. And then she said to me that a child came to the school weeping, and when the child was coming with the parents, the child was calm. Primary one. Now listen to this. The child arrived at school with the parents. The parent handed over the child to the school, and then they drove back. The child went into the classroom and never wanted to be involved. The child used to be very active, very, very active, interactive, and all of that, full of energy. But on this particular day, the child broke down. So my wife picked the child up and said, "What's the problem?" Guess what the child said? He said, "My daddy beat my mom, and I saw my mommy cry." A child at primary one. That should be a little bit older than your daughter, like the barrier or something. He said, "I saw my mommy cried. I saw my daddy beat my mom, and my mommy cried." And how did that affect the child? Throughout that week, that child wouldn't want to pick a pen to write. A female child. You think they don't know? They know more than you think. When you stir up negative energy and you talk to your husband anyhow, the child knows better than you think. I also live in a neighborhood. I live unaware. Every time a man walk up and tell the mother, "You are very stupid, you are a dog, you are an idiot, you are this, you are a bastard." When the man was going to travel out of Nigeria, I called him and said, "Please, this thing that you do is bad." He didn't listen. He had a 2-year-old child. The 2-year-old child today is behaving like a 70-year-old, but only in negative language. He called the mothers all manner of names that he got from the father. Today, they are trying to blame it on the environment, but I knew I watched when this young man used to beat the mother and call the mother names. Today, the child called the mother the same names. You are very stupid. Buy me ice cream. You are an idiot. I want popo. Things like that. And I feel like running away. It's not the environment that creates that negative energy. The family themselves created it. And the child, when that child was about 2 years old, he was taking those things in. And they thought it was a child. Today, it's a growing monster that looks like it's going to sweep that woman on the street very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, let's mind the kind of environment that we are building up, structuring and putting in place that our children are struggling with, and you have no idea. The truth of the matter is that you cannot build a home and you will not have fracas. You will not be in marriage morning, evening, this year, next year, 2 years, 3 years, 12 years, 10 years, you will not have issues. It's not possible. You will have issues, but how do you have to deal with it? You know the difference between your home and the next home next door? It is how they respond to issues. It's not the absence of issues, but how they do what? Respond to issues. The difference between your home and the next door neighbor is not the absence of financial problem. It's not the absence of a knacking wife. It's not the absence of irresponsible husband. It's not the absence of anything at all, but the difference is that how they decide to respond to those issues is what makes the difference. I hope we are sharing. So never you think that your children are going to be less in the future because it's peculiar to you. We can have the same environment and raise terrific children that will be giants and influencer of the nearest future. Ben Carson had a mother who got married at age 15. Some of you may know about the story. Ben Carson's mother got married at age 15, and then after they gave birth to the first child, then Ben Carson, and then the man moved and left that woman to struggle with life. She basically was serving at the restaurant as a waitress. Okay? And she didn't know how to read lines on papers. But guess what she did? In spite of all the challenges, in spite of all the issues of the environment, she told the kids every day or every week, read 4 books and explain them to me. And when they were reading those books and telling her what they read, she didn't understand what they were telling her that they read from books. But yet, she believed somehow they must have read something. And what they're saying is correct. And she kept at it. She kept at it. She kept at it until she produced one of the world-renowned medical scientists. She had her own challenges, but she decided to respond to it. How? Different. Miss Nelson just said something. When we were preparing those children to do those, whether it is the bead, I watched a child during the bead program came to school and said, my mom did not buy me anything. I don't have the materials. I don't have that. And the child felt so sick and ashamed during that exercise. 1 week exercise, a child feels secluded and like as if she was in another world. I said, you don't have to do that. And it is building up, destroying and cutting them down in the way they assess themselves compared to other children. When we did the public speaking, like he said also, some parents didn't pay attention to that. And some children were weeping. In fact, on Friday when we said that was the last, I saw a child shed tears because he didn't have a support back at home. I saw a child sitting down there weeping. And we had so much of workload to do, and we couldn't create a different time. I felt like a teacher to go and scribble and write material for the child, but there was no time. Because I only discovered on that Friday that was the child's case. So when we build negative energy, you know, they say every man's door is no man's door. Do you understand what that means? The dogs that belong to everyone will die of hunger. You know why? This one say this one will feed the dog. This one say let me go. The other one is going to feed the dog. So and that is the kind of thing that we do at home as husband and wife. Mommy will take care of you. And when my mommy is not available and the husband doesn't know that mommy is legitimately engaged and is not going to have time. But because he didn't want to even listen to mommy and understand the challenges and the schedule of mommy, people run home like as if they are political parties, opposite political parties competing for power. They don't want to dialogue over any issues. So APC is playing their own game, PDP is playing their own game in the same way. And children are suffering, devastated on a daily basis. And so, don't worry, mommy will do it. And mommy is also trying a wrapper and hitting the door and going home. Going out. Because daddy will do it. At the end of the day, the children become every man's dog that have no food, no care. And you see those kind of dogs, they have crocodile everywhere. They look very dirty. You don't want to relate with them as a pet. You see them as a threat in the environment. That's the kind of children that many homes produce. And you wonder why they will be a failure tomorrow. Come and ask me. I will tell you. So, it will affect how much time is given or assistance we give to them in the academic work. It will also affect, the studying of friends, that the children are able to keep. Who cares about the friends our children keep? Who cares about who are the kind of environment our children are developing in? I told my wife, I said, we don't have much time to spend where we are living. We need to move like a jet ski. Because the environment is negative. Even as an adult, you need to struggle like Lot in Sodom and Gomorrah to stay fit and stay in line with God. Otherwise, before you know it, it will swallow you up. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, do we pay attention? How many parents try to find out who is my child talking to? Because even some of us are not available for our kids to relate to. So who are they talking to? For them must talk to someone. In fact, there is no vacuum in this world. The moment you leave a vacuum, something will fill it. Whether it is positive or negative, we need to pay attention to this. It will also affect the checking of their belongings, the academic materials. When I was a child in primary and secondary, you know what? You do not leave the school and go home without checking your bag, because don't let mommy check the bag and find out that certain things are missing. Then we used to carry that charcoal board, that you have to use chalk to write and slate, right? Okay, and then you have your school, textbooks and all. Don't go home and let mommy be the one to discover that anything is missing in that bag, because you know what will get back to you. Do we still have such parents? Do we still have such parents in the floor? Please, let there be such parents. We need more of such parents today than yesterday. Like he said when he was presenting, the chairman was making a speech, he said, the world is changing. So if parents pay attention to our activities yesterday, then we should do even much more better. It will also affect the study of the environmental factors that can affect the children's education negatively. Some of our children are not doing bad when they are in school, but the moment they leave the school and get back to the society for just the weekend, when they come back, we wonder, were these our part of our leaders in this school? What has happened? Just for them to spend Saturday, Sunday at home and come back, they became something else. But when they are spending Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday with us, check their books and their participation in the class activities and interaction. You know that the child is not done. As soon as Friday comes and gone, when they return back, we find empty head and we have to start from square one. These are the challenges that we are having to grapple with as a school to manage it. And we thought that we should share with you. We thought that it is reasonable for us to partner together for this laudable, honorable, noble project that God has trusted into our hands to care for which we shall render account both to this generation and to God Almighty. As an organization, we will render account of the opportunity we have today. As parents, we will render account of the opportunity we have today to be parents. The managing of the parents' friends comes home. Relatives, uncle, aunts, neighbors, parents, you know that some of your friends affect your children negatively. You have any clue? Yes, it affects your children either positively or negatively. Some friends that we gather, our church women, our church mommy, it's amazing. My colleagues at work, the same way they influence our spouses is the same way they influence our kids. And these things rub up on our children. Most of the time you will soon discover that your child is beginning to demonstrate certain energy you don't find from your home or from the history of your family, but you see it jumping up on a daily basis. You begin to wonder where it's coming from. Friends that you keep as parents. You know, whether it is rape, so many things. Rape is even extreme cases. There are things, psychological effects that is taking toll on our children on a daily basis because of friendship that we keep as parents. And we need to pay attention to all of this. We need to pay attention to all of this. So the question is what we can do to help in ameliorating some of these affairs that are common to our families. For us as a school, we have put down a few lists of areas of concern that we think that if treated and properly, catered for, we will be able to be in control, be in charge, and channel our families in the right directions. The school will make to be in business, be successful, and then as parents, we will be proud of the investment that we have made. But ultimately, our leaders will be better for it. Our leaders will be better for it. The few information available here, I think that you should pay attention. That paper that you have at home, at hand, please, when you go, keep it in custody. Keep it in where? In custody. Make sure it doesn't leave your hands. Don't trivialize on the import of some of the information listed here, especially from this point below. The following information are key for us to pay attention to in dealing with our leaders at home. Arm yourself with the knowledge of anger management as a parent. Arm yourself with the knowledge of what? Anger management. You know, there's no one that will not get angry. And like I said, everybody have challenges. But the difference between our family and the next door neighbor, the difference between you as an individual and I that is talking to you, is how we have chosen differently to respond to issues of life that comes to us. We don't have a choice to decide what environment should throw at us, but we have a choice to decide how we want to respond to it, how we want to allow those effects to affect us. Is that understood? And so, let us be knowledgeable on how to manage these emotional situations when it comes up. Because it is only bound that offense must come. The offense must do what? Must come. So, arm yourself with the knowledge of anger management. Number 2, arm yourself with the knowledge of your primary responsibility. The knowledge of your primary responsibility. What does that entail? As an African woman, let me speak and bring it down home as African people. As African couples, husband and wife, there are primary responsibilities that if properly put in place, the home front will be robust, well-built, structured, equipped, warm for the living of and the upbringing of our children. There are so many areas of primary responsibility, particularly in the aspect of the women. And the Bible says that these things are very essential for us to relate with. Let me just give us a few areas of primary responsibility to take down as we relate with other issues. Number 1, love your husband unconditionally. I'm not going to bother to break down. Number 2, help him. Number 3, keep his honor and dignity. Do you know that many women have related with their spouse, with their husband, and when your husband leaves you at home and meet with even a little young man that that is going nowhere, your husband become afraid of that one. Because the wife at home have told him that he's a no man. He's not a man. Are you a man? Are you one of the men that we have in the bed? Please, when they speak of men, open the door and lock yourself inside. Don't let your voice be heard. When you say that to a man, guess what? You think he just flips off. This is what happened. As soon as you finish saying that, he might challenge you at that point, even give you a slap. But long after the incident, he sit back quietly and take it in. My wife told me that I am not a man, that I'm less a man, and when men speak, I should hide. Could this be true? It might be true. The word "it might be true" will be the strongest voice. Will be the word? The strongest voice. That it might be true. And so even when I go on the street, tell him, "My friend, keep quiet, shut up, kneel down." Your husband kneel down and apologize. Because the wife told him, "Please, when men speak, thou shalt not open thy mouth, for thou art not a man." And you know why he believes it? He believes that if my wife, who sleep and wake up with me in the same house, is telling me this is the reason why it is true. If it is another man, he will say, maybe he doesn't know much about me. But if my wife tells me this, then it is true. And that destroys his dignity, destroys his self-esteem, destroys his manhood, destroys everything around him. And he looks like a child among children. May God help us in Jesus' name. Okay, so help your husband. The Bible said women are supposed to be helpmeet. Am I right? Women are supposed to be helpmeet. So number 4 point of primary responsibility is support him. We talk about building synergy, that solidarity means building support around each other as a team. Support your husband. Like I said, I'm not going to stress much on each of these points. We'll just run down on them. Number 5, be available. Many partners are never available. They are like America and Africa. Very far, several thousands of kilometers radius. But they look like they are living in the same environment. But that's not the case. Be available for one another. Number 6, respect him. Number 7, fulfill his needs. Emotional needs, psychological needs, any aspect of needs. How many people really know how to listen and find out or discover the needs of our partners? When you discover the needs of your partner and provide for it, you are building your leaders. You are building the children that are watching. Because you don't only produce academic, genius, you also produce future husbands and wives who either will be terrorists for women tomorrow, or they will be, home builders. Do you understand that? So let's try to ensure that we are available, we understand the emotion, we understand all the needs, varieties available. Seek his opinion. I'm into real estate, and I've seen women buy land and tell me, "Please, Mr. Sam, you know my husband, you must not let him know I have bought it out. You must not let him know that I bought a land that cost this much, or I am pricing a land that cost this much." And I go back home and begin to wonder what the whole base is. Is this what marriage is all about? Seek his opinion about investment, choice, and decisions you're going to make. Cook for him. Some wives don't cook for their husband anymore. They cook for the bank, they cook for the industry where they get salary. The boss there get the cooking of the wives, and the husband now become the one that wash plates. Respect your in-laws. All these things you do builds the environment that will enhance the upbringing of the children in such a way that you will wonder how it impacts their academic performance. Take care of household duties. Be responsible, and then also ensure that you are patient. Be patient with your spouses, and then also ensure that you educate your children. Let me stop there. That is for the women. For the men, the Bible says in the book of 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 7, he said, "Let the men relate or deal with their wives according to knowledge." According to what? According to what? Knowledge. According to knowledge. How many of us understand the rhythm in the heart of our wives? When you have a better knowledge of your spouse, then to provide for what he or she needs is not expensive at all. So let's deal with knowledge. That is the duty of the men. But beyond all of that, we also have some other aspects of responsibility that we need to deal with. And those ones are also very key. So we have talked about arming yourself with, the anger management. We've talked about arming yourself with knowledge of primary responsibility, as well as, whether you're a wife or you're a husband. And then undertake your secondary responsibility as a parent. What are the list of secondary responsibility? Number one, develop a powerful sense of discernment. Develop a powerful sense of what? Discernment. What do we mean by discernment? Is it to go and meet, a GO to prophesy into our lives? No. Is it for us to go to campground and seek the appearance of angels to tell us things that no physical eyes can see, that we may know that deliverance and discernment are taking place? No. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand here to surprise you that 90% of the issue of discernment that we need in life are predicated upon the physical environment that we can relate to, that we can manage, that we can handle. Only 10% belongs to God to show up by way of revelation. So, what do we mean by discernment here? Discern the environment that you are living in. Understand when you need to relocate from a neighborhood. I spoke with a parent today, how she changed about 2-3 schools to enter Hugh Bethesda. And the reason is not because of anything else, but she remained perpetually, unsatisfied about the performance of those children in school. And she said to me that when she entered into Hugh Bethesda, her anxiety began to calm down. So she wasn't changing environment because she had money to rent a better house. No, but she changed because something else was driving her. And that thing was the success, the performance, the future of the children. Not because she was comfortable with to go and pay fresh rent, even when her rent was still counting. But she got to change environment because she got something better than today to deal with the future of the children. Design your environment and understand when there's a need to move to the other side of life. Talk about the information that your child is bringing in. If you can look at your child in the face when she is complaining certain things to you about the school where she's coming from, you will discover that she's lying most of the time than the truth. So Ms. Essien said the same thing. So sometimes I will see them do certain things in the class. I will say, if I beat you on this issue, when you go home, you will not tell your mom how you managed to get the wound. Do you get what I'm saying? I said, I have the choice. Let me tell you, some of you guys says, don't beat my child. And I was telling Ms. Essien, I said, we are the ones to tell parents how not to flog children. Because some of us are psychologists. We understand the measure necessary and that are different from one child to the other. The psychology of some of these children. We understand. There are some children that you dare not tell them to kneel down like this. Don't even try that. Once you tell him this one you want to do, he will face his work or our responsibility. But you at home will not understand that psychology. We want to flog him. So we understand better. It's not every time we pull the rod. So when I notice some of this, I will say, if I choose to flog you and even wound you on top, when you get home, you will not tell your parents, Mr. Sam flogged you. Because you can't confront your parents with what led to the flogging. In that instance, the child will never come and report to you. Do you get what I'm saying? But if there's any other issue that she feels that she can find a way around the corner and look like innocent victim, then she will come and present it to you. We need to discern this environment. You know why? Otherwise, you will end up changing from a better school that are within your income bracket, and yet you are getting reasonable value, and you change a school because of complaint of children that you know that it is resident in us naturally, even when you were at that age, to behave like that. And that even you know that this same child of yours has misbehaved in so many ways back there at home, and you wonder whether it is your child. It's only that you will not come and tell anybody on the street that that is the case. And so he brings information to you and you cannot discern whether he's telling you the right thing or the wrong thing, and you end up planning to change his school and put yourself in challenges that you cannot confront or manage. Okay, so design your environment. Number 2, lead from the front. Do you want your child to be academic genius? Then show some level of tenacity show that your child that this is the best way to go. Most of the children will learn only by the languages and the reading of the parents, the way they play out on a daily basis. Than when you are trying to tell them, hey, don't you see your mates? Don't you see this? Don't you see that? Hey, look at that man, that child on the TV. Look at, oh, the one you are the closest influencer that your life or your child can harness and mirror her or his way through life. So let's make ourselves available and positive and active in those areas concerned. Number 3, be mysterious. I like this one. Be mysterious. Sometimes a child can come and give you some information, and you right there on the spot, you call the teacher or you call the head of school, and please, there are business hours and there are also no business hours. So you can call the school right there in the presence of the child and trash out issues immediately, morally. But there are also times when you can surprise the child when he's bringing some report. One day I went to tell my dad that this person flogged me, and my dad handled me and flogged me very well and told me, don't come and report that kind of stupid report again, because I'm not going to fight with my neighbor. Next time, defend yourself. You know what? After that day, they didn't beat me again to bring back reports. I knew how to deal with issues at home, at school, and come back like a giant. Because I knew I didn't have a parent who is willing to go and fight on the streets. I didn't have that. So when you are able to be mysterious, know when to tell them, come on, sit down, keep quiet. I sent you there. I told Miss Essien to do that to you. I told Mr. Friday to do that to you. So next time, behave yourself in the class. Then you are becoming mysterious. The other time, you quickly pick a phone and call the teacher, isn't it? But today, he comes back with the same report. You put her where she belongs. Then next time, why should a teacher or a school flog a child and wound a child for where he's going to get school fees and be in business? Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. Especially not in this competitive age, where schools are opening both in bedroom and toilets and everywhere. So we cannot change we are the people who have prioritized what God has blessed us with. And so do not try to make it look like we don't know what we are doing. Try to be mysterious. Know when to surprise the child with positive or negative response. That the child will wonder, if I have to tell my mom this, how will she analyze it? Next, flatter your child's insecurity. This is very key. Most of the leaders that you see, like Ms. Essien said, that discover themselves during the skill acquisition and public speaking are able to do so because teachers in the school told them you are not the worst. We never confronted them with their poor performance in their classwork. We kept stirring them up, and many a time we have seen them double up after they finish secondary school and primary and moving into junior secondary, or from junior secondary into senior secondary. They gradually discover themselves. So, what are the area of insecurity that we need to flatter? And what do we mean by flattering? Try to find out the areas where your child is depleting emotionally, and let your child know that no, you are not the worst. A child can come back home and say, my friend said I have a coconut head. Tell your child that coconut head is the best head in the world. That is how to flatter his or her what? Insecurity. A child can come and tell you, they said I am the shortest in the school. Find something to tell the child to understand that her height is not a shortcoming. If it is on the issue of classwork, let the child know that at your age, you are still on the discovery process. You are still on what? Discovery process. Do you know that children don't choose subjects until they are in secondary school, senior secondary? Do you agree with me? Why is it so? Because at that stage, they are able to decipher where their strength and their weakness really lies. You cannot measure yourself when you are in KG, primary 1, primary 2 to primary 6. It is nonsense. So my child, don't worry. Very soon you will surprise them. You will do what? You will surprise them. And I bet you that is only true. That is the truth. One day that child will surprise the world. Ben Carson grew up the worst brain and had very negative tag attributed to him, even from the teachers in the school. So please build those areas of insecurity. Is key. Build trust also. This one is very simple. It sounds very easy to relate with, but it is very sensitive. do what? Build trust. How do we mean by building trust? You tell a child this term, once you graduate from KG and enter into primary, I'm going to buy you a bicycle. For children, they don't forget it all. They don't do what? They will hold it against you 10 years to come. 10 years. 10 years. And even when they cannot ask you, they have a storage system where such information are kept perpetually. My mom promised this and never did it. Even when the child grow up and get married, if he even become better, he will learn how to be like you, promising and not doing. He will get those information and say, this is one thing my mom did, I will never be like him or like her. Do you understand what I'm saying? So build trust. Buy that bicycle. It is an investment. It is what? It is an investment. Let me tell you what that bicycle does. It tells that child that she has a backing and the reason why she should do what she's doing. I watched a movie and an old man was training a young warrior. And the young warrior was showing some level of tenacity and skill to fight. And the old man told the young man and said, hey child, calm down. It is not about your ability to carry the sword and strike your enemy at the battlefield. But it is 90% about your ability to find the reason to even lift up the sword in the first place when the enemy shows up. Do you have a reason why you should fight for your nation? Do you have a reason why you should fight for your wife? Do you have a reason why you should fight for your children? That reason is stronger than strength. It's stronger than what? Strength. When a man don't have reason, even with weapon in his hand, he turns back at the enemy who is armless. So, when you buy that bicycle, you are giving the child a reason to fight for life. You now understand why you should keep your promise? Please be good at it. Okay. Give your time, your child's moral building, how they relate with the people and environment, which includes peer influence, emotional needs, and academic activities with every aspect of life. These things include whether it's school project, whether it is class assignment, whether it is, a parent told me today that he checked into the book and a child will come home, a little child engaged will get home and say, I will have no business with food until I finish my homework. And guess what? The child doesn't even understand the homework that was given. He will tell the mother, Mom, I don't understand what they're asking me to do, but I want to finish it. And I told the woman, we've gotten it. We've done what? We've gotten it. That child, first and foremost, have identified the issue of priority. The issue of discovering the strength to solve the problem is the smallest problem for us. When a man, the people say, the day a madman knows that he is mad, or realizing that he is mad, madness ends. No more prayer, no more psychiatric assistance, nothing more. That day that it's going, hey, I'm supposed to put on shirt, then you will spend less to solve the problem. That child has discovered her top priority, but the smallest problem now is showing up how to solve that problem. I told her we have found it, we've gotten it, and I was excited today to face my parents. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because a child at that age discovering priority is key. Then finding solution is just by the corner. And I told her, let's watch out to see what the next academic session will hold. That other aspect of issue will be sorted out. So, give time. Please, let us not build real estate that our children will sell and make money to become a terrorist. Let us not build businesses that our child cannot relate with long after we're gone. Let us not keep fat accounts in the bank that our children cannot know what to deal with. Do you know that people develop businesses based on their capacity of knowledge? Parents, do you share that with me? You cannot own business that is beyond your capacity of knowledge. Your level of intellectual, your level of decision making, your level of skills, your level of reasoning and thinking ability. You can't own any business that is beyond you at that level of life. Why do you want to build institutions, buy land at Ibejuleki, go to a bay and buy them for 400,000, 300,000? Do you know what will happen? When your child has no academic strength, he will sell those lands and He will use those resources and fight you and put your name in a bad mess in the society. The best treasury we can leave behind for our leaders is to prepare them and strengthen them with values. Values that have eternal strength, enduring time. Encourage your children. Appreciate their good works. Understand when they do well and be different from the previous season. Provide a support system for the development of the children. There's something called auto drive. Auto drive. I'm talking to parents here. Some of you are international businessmen and women who fly on jet speed on weekly basis and all of that. But if that is your level, then you can build what we call auto drive system. A situation where even when you are in abroad, you just press a button, there is a mechanic next door that is going to take the child to school, that is going to service the car, there's a driver somewhere that is going to take the child to school. Then you just build a system that are very responsive and active, and at the end of the day, your presence they don't even miss you. It looks like daddy is just by the door. It's not that you look like mommy is just by the corner. Do you understand? You can build an auto drive system where interaction between you and your children are on a daily, very close range, like as if you are right there, or you are in Jamaica or in America or something. And they feel the psychological balance that mommy is right there. I lost a father in the Lord recently, a pastor. Before he went to bed, he spoke to the children, held a conference call that Sunday evening, did everything, prayed with them as if they are in the house, as he was also doing with the wife. By the time he returned to bed, he slept and never woke up. The following day, when they told the children who were writing exams in the US, they said, "No, that's not my dad. That's not my what? My dad. I spoke with him last night. We prayed together last night." The energy of that man was still fresh, even when they were in America. You can build an auto drive system that will not allow your absence to be visible, in the way your children assess their development or a developmental process. So, provide that kind of support. Add significant, values and whatever is needed in their life, it is very key. And also, be an emphatic listener. Now, this one becomes very key. I will leave you with this because it is very, very essential. What do we mean by building or being an emphatic, listener? It means be a very sensitive, intense listener. When somebody tells you, listen to things that are not being said after the that you can also hear. Listen with your ears, but you know that you can also listen with your heart. Do you know that you can also listen with your eyes? Do we understand these things? Yes. You can listen with your ears, but beyond ear, the heart also listens. That is where understanding comes in. But you can also listen with your eyes, the things that you see, and weigh them in a balance. How do they sustain? How long are this information standing before you can be able to invest your time and energy to deal with? To be emphatic listener means to listen properly in order to understand so that you can also be understood. So that you can also be what? Understood. When you listen enough to understand the situation so that you will be understood, especially if you are going to offer a solution, you will also offer that solution based on your capacity of understanding. Am I making sense to you? You cannot offer any solution, even in answering questions, exam questions. It is based on your capacity to dissect the information embedded in the question that is given. Do I make sense to you? So if you are going to help your child, if you are going to help your spouse, if you are going to help Hill Perfected Educational Foundation or any school that you may relate with tomorrow, hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's be an emphatic listener. With these few points. Importance of emphatic listening. Number one, it gives you sufficient data or information to work with when someone or your child is relating with you or making sense of anything. Because you are able to listen properly, you'll be able to deal with those issues. Number two, emphatic listening enables you to see the mind of the complainer, clearly. They said if you write 6 here, you write number 6 like this, and somebody stand on this end and look at 6, you will see number 9. The person who stand on the down and look at number 6 sees is what? Number 6. That means emphatic listening will help you to be able to see things in the perspective of the other person. And then when you issue solutions or ideas or advice, it will be well balanced, having understood from which point of view this fellow is looking at this situation that you are dealing with. Is that clear with us? And then being emphatic listener will also reduce the chances of misunderstanding. A lot of the chances that we have to deal with misunderstanding is a function of the absence of understanding. God will help us to understand things effectively. Emphatic listening also will help the parent relate well with the school management, in dealing with whatever is the issue. Like the open air took place with the people came in and related to the class teachers. There was an attitude that tells us that, oh, we have hope, this will see the on tomorrow. But it could have gone the other way around. After the school, the open air, we begin to close the door, know that we will not open next term. But I saw some energy that showed that we are still friends, we are still partners together. How to become an emphatic listener. Diagnose before you begin to provide solution. And lastly, listen with your eyes, ears, and heart. I have said that before. Don't listen to filter information just because you want to respond, but because you want to understand. These are a few things I thought that we should share. But most importantly, understand that we are partners with you. We are what? Partners with you. We are partners with you. Your progress is our progress. If you are not there, you won't be here. God bless you for coming. God bless you.